We'll head over to the Sound Off hotline and welcome our guest, Mr. Michael Wright, who writes for the Florida Times-Union, covers the Jacksonville Jaguars. Michael, welcome inside the Sports Sound Off. Thanks for a few minutes of your time tonight.
Oh, not a problem. How y'all doing?
Doing great, and we do appreciate you coming on here. Look, Jacksonville Jaguars, a lot of fans listen to the program. We all want to know, are they going to be players in free agency? Do they have money to spend coming up here in, 4.5 hours? Do you see the Jaguars being players in free agency?
I do not. In fact, I was just told today by a pretty good source that I should get some sleep tonight. So, pretty much, he as a matter of fact, he said get some sleep tonight, and he said in the morning you could sleep in.
Okay.
So I get the impression they're not going to do much.
So don't set the alarm clock if you're a Jacksonville fan, but definitely set your alarm, for when it comes around to the draft, and we'll get to that momentarily. But the Jags finished the season in a 4-game losing streak, Michael, and Wayne Weaver, the owner there, decided not to fire Jack Del Rio. Weaver says it wasn't because of money. However, many of us know, look, if Del Rio was fired, he was going to own $16 million. In your mind, was that the case, or maybe the better question is, where is Weaver's confidence and his trust with Jack Del Rio heading into a new season?
Well, I think part of it, part of the situation was the money, but, you've got to also keep in mind that these owners are getting, they're gearing up for this lockdown coming up next season. As far as Jack goes, I think they're pretty confident in him. There was, before the 4-game losing streak, there was all this hope that the Jags would get into the playoffs. During the 3-game run, I'm reading stories online about Jack being a candidate for Coach of the Year. So, how do you go from a Coach of the Year candidate to, supposedly interviewing for your job? I kind of think personally that Del Rio got a raw deal on that.
Okay, we're talking with Michael Wright, who covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Florida Times-Union right here on the Sports Sound-Off. Michael, let's get into the draft here. I know you only have a few minutes for us here today, but, a couple of the needs for the Jacksonville Jaguars heading into the draft. Obviously, defensive end, a big concern for the Jags. Only 14 sacks, which was a league low last year. So I got to imagine defensive end is going to be, something that they're really focused on, and there are a couple of players out there for a pass rusher. Obviously, you need a pass rusher to get pressure on the quarterback, and that helps the defense. Who are the Jags focusing on right now? I'm looking at Derek Morgan from Georgia Tech and maybe Jason Pierre-Paul from USF. Am I on the right track here, or are they going somewhere else?
Well, I thought that would be the case too, but obviously Gene Smith's philosophy. He wants to take the best player available, and just from what I gathered from talking to all the scouts at the combine, it seemed like they weren't very much excited about either one of those guys. That was just the impression I got. I can't specifically say some of the guys they were excited about because they'd be really upset with me. But I would say that defensive end is a need, yes, but they think they can get that lower in the draft. They feel like there's some value later, like third round maybe.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Very interesting. Bringing that to the program, we do appreciate that. So where are they going in the first round? Maybe not a player, you can't throw a name out there, but a position, because I know safety is a concern for them. Is that a possibility as well? Because in my mind, when I think Jacksonville Jaguars, I think the running game, although, David Garrett has been pretty good at the quarterback position, but, I think grind it out, attack you, but on the other side of it, the defense. And I'm looking for the Jags to rebuild that defense. Do you think they do that with that first pick? Because they don't have a second-round draft pick.
I think they do. I was told that would be the focus to build the whole draft would be to build the defense. But again, I keep going back to Gene's philosophy, of taking the best available player. So are you telling me that if somehow Sam Bradford happened to fall to 10, the Jags wouldn't take him? I don't think that would be the case. I think they'd take him.
Absolutely. I agree 100% because, look, they're eventually going to need to take a quarterback to groom, to prepare somebody to possibly take over for David Garrett. He's had 2 losing seasons with the Jaguars. a very interesting situation there. We're talking with Michael Wright, a writer for the Florida Times-Union, covered the Jacksonville Jaguars. A few more questions for you, Michael. Carlos Dunlap, a big name out there, former Florida Gator. Any interest on the Jaguar side in him? Obviously, they'd have to put him, into a first-round pick because he is projected to go at some point in the first round. Any interest from Carlos Dunlap's standpoint?
I honestly don't think so, just because of the off the field situation with him. You know the Jags' whole new philosophy is to get all these choir boys, because I've told Del Rio, I'm like, hey dude, how are you gonna win with all these choir boys? Don't you need a couple of bad boys on your team? But that's the direction they're going. So it's really hard to say that they would be interested in him based off, didn't he get in trouble for some kind of drunk driving incident?
Yeah, towards the end of the season, he sure did.
That's right. So I just think that would be a big red flag for them.
All right, one more question for you before we let you go. I know you've probably dealt with a lot of this Tim Tebow talk here, and I didn't really want to get into it, but I've got to ask you this. Without a second-round pick, and it probably is going to be the case, let's just say Sam Bradford doesn't fall down to them, so Tim Tebow, are they interested in trading up for him? Is this something that they're interested in, or maybe just take the approach where we don't have a second-round pick, we don't have much to offer, so if he falls to us in the third or fourth round, well, then we'll just take him right there?
Man, I really don't think so. And again, I've talked to a lot of people in that building, I would say I've talked to all the top guys as far as the decision makers, and every one of them have they've all told me that they don't think Tim can play quarterback in the NFL. As a matter of fact, one of them said, man, he really looks good though. He looks like he could be a heck of a tight end or an H-back, but not quarterback. And, again, I've told people that, that could be posturing on their part, with the draft coming up, because nobody wants to show their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after Mr. Weaver came out with the whole thing going into last season about, hey, yeah, we love Tebow, let's bring him here. Maybe they're posturing to put out that vibe that they may not be as interested in the guy. So I really don't know, but from what I've been told, they're not interested.
Okay. Well, I had to throw that out there. Obviously, Tim Tebow, Florida Gator, would sell a lot of, put a lot of bodies in the seats, sell a lot of jerseys. I personally don't think he'll be a great NFL quarterback, but I have heard rumors down there, or in Jacksonville, that they're possibly interested. But you guys heard it here from Michael Wright. Not really interested. We'll have to wait and see to the draft. Michael, we do appreciate your time coming in here on the program, and we hope to catch up with you soon, maybe shortly after the draft, to get your take on the Jaguars draft picks.
Hey, cool. Sounds good.
All right, Michael Wright from the Florida Times-Union covers the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program. Good information there. Look, not interested in Tim Tebow. I understand that. Many teams out there have got to be careful with, Tim Tebow. Where do you go take him in the draft? Where is it too high? Where are you reaching for him? Because if you take him in the first round as a quarterback, he's going to want to get paid. That's the bottom line. And, the Jacksonville Jaguars have the 11th pick in the draft. Definitely not going to take Tim Tebow there, I don't think. That would be a shocker, the shocker of the draft. Absolutely. It'll be very interesting. Look, they don't have a second-round pick. Did they take him as a third-rounder? Michael Wright said it right here on the program. Doesn't believe so. Appreciate him coming on the show. So a little interesting insight there in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I really thought they'd go after Derek Morgan or Jason Pierre-Paul. He couldn't specify. He didn't want to let anything out of the bag there here on the program tonight. But obviously the Jags are interested in defense, and rightfully so they should. 14 sacks in a season. You've got guys who do that by themselves. This was a team-low 14 sacks a year ago, and that's just not Jacksonville Jaguar defense whatsoever. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes out.